It wasn't written for kids. It was written for Harold. So it's very basic and devoid of personality, rather fitting for the Sussexes, but a shame for anyone who mistakes it for an actual children's book. Is there even a market for uninspired, bland, illustrated poems for grown-ups? I don't think so. Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. Today's video, it's my understanding that some of you would like to skip it. In a recent video, when we discussed the Ellen interview that Meghan did a few years ago, that was an absolute disaster, I asked you all if you would like me to review her children's book, The Bench, which is quite cringe, quite lame when it comes to a children's book. Spoiler alert, I'll just tell you now, it's pretty lame. So many of you said you wanted me to do it. Several of you said, please spare us. Haha, pun intended. But much more of you asked me to go ahead and do it than those who said, please don't. So I understand if you want to skip today's video. I don't blame you. Thank you for stopping by. Please leave a comment for the algorithm before you go. A yellow heart, if you don't know what to comment, is always welcome. But for those of you who would like to stay, we're going to take a look at The Bench today. So I checked it out from the library because I'm not going to buy it. I don't want it in my collection because it's just not that great. It's not going to hold the attention of most children. And I agree with a lot of you who said that this seemed a bit odd in the first place. If you write a poem for your partner, for your spouse, for the father of your children, or the mother of your children, if you write a poem for them, why would you be showing it to other people in the first place? Because Meghan's story was that she wrote this poem for Harry for his first Father's Day, and then they were sharing it with people who said, no, this feels really inclusive, and you should make this a book. And so after several friends told her this, she decided to make it a book. And that story doesn't really add up to most people. And I would agree, it doesn't really make much sense. It doesn't really add up. It could be just completely made up and trying to find a way to justify that she went ahead and wrote this book. People respect it much more if you say, I just thought that it would make a nice book. I just liked it. Or I wrote it and I thought it would be nice to have it in a book to read to our children. And then I sent it to a publisher to see if it could just be published. But if they didn't like it, I was going to just have it bound as like a keepsake. Like, people would respect that. You can say that. It's okay to say that you like something that you wrote or created. And I think people would respect the story more if she didn't try to push off responsibility for it being published onto just some vague random friends in an unbelievable story. Instead, being like, I wanted to write this, then at least you know she's behind it. And it's not just like, well, it was just a poem. I don't know. What's your opinion on that? Let's take a look. Now, the pictures are by Christian Robinson, and I think a lot of people really like the pictures and really like the illustrations of it, and they do seem nice. They seem pleasant. But another point that someone made in the comments on the Ellen video was, how would they know that the story is inclusive before it was illustrated? Very good point, because the illustrations are very inclusive, but the story itself doesn't really acknowledge anything in terms of like inclusivity. So I agree with that point as well. Good catch. So the inside cover says, in The Bench, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, beautifully captures the special relationship between fathers and sons through a mother's eyes. Her thoughtful and poetic vision of the future for her family is one that everyone can relate to. I don't know if I would call her vision for the future very poetic, and I'm not sure that everyone can relate to it. By nature, calling herself Duchess Meghan as the author instead of just Meghan Markle is not relatable. So the illustration on the inside cover is Harry and Archie, obviously, which is fine. And I think that if there was a little bit less on the nose in terms of discussing the book and the story and the poem and all of that, and it was just little tiny hints like the illustration on the opening pages, I think that people would receive that a little bit better, but it's a little too on the nose. Here we have cringe moment number 1. For the man and the boy who made my heart go pump, pump. I'm sorry, but that should not be in writing in your book. Just don't. And it's written in her bad cursive writing. This is your bench where life will begin for you and our son, our baby, our kin. Very on brand for Meghan Markle, very repetitive. For you and our son is enough. But then our baby, so she's repeating son and baby, that's the same person. And our kin is family. So again, it's just redundant and repetitive. It could have been a little bit more creative to add some variety there. This is your bench where you'll witness great joy. I get it was supposed to be a poem, but even as a poem, starting the first two stanzas with "This is your bench" is not great writing, just objectively speaking. From here you will rest, see the growth of our boy. Okay, so is she talking to the child or is she talking to the dad? I can't tell, because it's almost like "This is your bench where you'll witness great joy" seems like it's to the kid, but apparently it's to the dad. He'll learn to ride a bike as you watch on with pride. Okay. Boring. He'll run and he'll fall and he'll take it in stride. These contractions I don't quite like when it comes to reading a poem out loud. Heal, 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 heal. In only a couple dozen words, she says heal 3 times, and heal is hard to read aloud. So for a picture book, it's meant to be read aloud to your children. Heal is hard to say as it is. You'll love him, you'll listen, you'll be his supporter. Okay. When life feels in shambles, you'll help him find order. You'll sit on this bench as his giving tree. Oh, I see. Like the dad is the giving tree. See, this is the problem with the book and the poem. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't have good flow. It's not easy to read aloud, and it doesn't quite make sense. And we're still kind of confused in terms of who you're writing this for. It still doesn't really come through. I know she says she writes it for Harry, and it's a poem for Harry, but it just doesn't come through like that. It doesn't read like that. Some days he may cry perched there on your knee. Terrible flow. He'll feel happiness, sorrow, one day be heartbroken. Isn't that what you just said? That he'll be sad one day. You'll tell him I love you, those words always spoken. This is your bench for Papa and son to celebrate joys and victories won. And here in the window I'll have tears of great joy looking out at my love and our beautiful boy. Right there on your bench, the place you'll call home, with daddy and son, where you'll never be lone instead of never be alone. It is boring. It is just blah. There could have been so many more scenarios, because this is supposed to be like thinking about from an anchoring place of a bench, watching life happen, right? And watching this child grow up. So instead of saying just you'll witness great joy, and then going on, you'll witness great joy, the growth of our boy, learning to ride a bike, and that you'll be proud of it. She could have gone on to expand to lots of other scenarios and firsts and things that you can look forward to as a parent. There could have been so many different ideas to expand upon, both for the reader and for children listening, to have more interest and more points of relatability. And then the part of being a giving tree could have been expanded on, because that can be a neat idea. Parents really are like giving trees. They're constantly giving so much to their children all of the time. She could have expanded on that instead. And then saying, some days he may cry, he'll feel happiness, sorrow, or one day be heartbroken. That was just the clunkiest way ever to say that there's going to be good days and bad days. And again, could have expanded on it in a way where there was more connection to the reader and examples that people could draw upon.
Hi, and welcome to Brightly Storytime. I'm Megan, the Duchess of Sussex, and today I'm going to read to you my book called The Bench. This is illustrated by Christian Robinson, and I asked him to do something special for me and use watercolors, which isn't the normal medium he works in, but he did it to make this extra special. I hope you love the pictures as much as you love the words. I wrote this as a poem for my husband and our son Archie, and then turned it into a book so you could enjoy it too. Here you go. The Bench.
Pardon the interruption. After I recorded this video, I found that she had done a read aloud of sorts for Brightly Storytime. So I went and watched it, and it was pretty strange. In her intro, she says she specifically requested the illustrator use watercolor to make it more special, but she doesn't explain why. And this is so frustrating. If you're going to point it out and say that it was to make it feel special, then explain why. What about watercolors were more special to her? Why was this requested? What did it add to the story in general? Like, what was the point? It kind of reads as her just making a controlling request for no reason when she doesn't give us a reason as to why she requested it. It just seems like she was sticking her nose in the illustrator's business is what it seems like. So that was really odd, and I wish she would have explained why. And really, this is important no matter what you're reviewing or discussing. If you say, I don't know, you love a lipstick, for example, explain why. Is it the formula, the wear time, the texture, the color? What is it about it that you like, and why does it make it better? Why do watercolors make this story better, according to the Meg? We'll never know, because no one cares enough about the book to ask her. The other element to the story time that was weird is that there's this really emotive piano playing rather loudly the entire time that she reads. And it really doesn't fit with the story. It's like the piano was placed to try to make the story seem more emotional and moving than it really is. While the words of the story are rather empty and boring and blah, they're plain, they're uninspired, they don't make you feel anything, these words don't, and the words don't make you think about anything. So why do we have such a contrast with this piano? It doesn't fit the story. And for kids, it would be really distracting hearing this piano over the words, and the pace that she reads it is really slow, which also I think would just leave kids wandering around and not paying attention to the book. Which leads me to the last thing that I forgot to include while filming this video. One of the biggest factors that render this book inadequate is that it was written for adults. I get that now after thinking about it more. It's presented as a children's book here in this Brightly Storytime and marketed as a children's book, but it's not. That's why it sucks as a kid's book. It's not a kid's book. It wasn't written with children in mind. It wasn't written to excite kids or hold their attention. It wasn't written to inspire or comfort children at all. It wasn't written for kids. It was written for Harold. So it's very basic and devoid of personality. Rather fitting for the Sussexes, but a shame for anyone who mistakes it for an actual children's book. Is there even a market for uninspired, bland, illustrated poems for grown-ups? I don't think so. Probably explains the dismal selling of this book. It's yet another manifestation of Harry and Meghan's consistent inability to read the room and know their audience. They just don't. They can't. She markets this as a kid's book. She sold it to the publishers as a kid's book, those suckers. And it's not. It's not a kid's book at all. And that's why it's terrible. But back to the video.
You enjoyed The Bench. I loved being able to share it with you. And now I hope you're able to go and find your own special bench, or a chair, or a little quiet nook. Just a place that means something to you that you can share with someone you love. Have a great day and come back to Brightly Storytime soon. Bye!
And then where you'll never be lone is just the worst final line you could possibly have. Here on the back cover, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, is a mother, wife, feminist, and activist. Through the nonprofit work of the Archwell Foundation, she and her husband are committed to activating compassion in communities across the world. She currently resides in her home state of California with her family, 2 dogs, and a growing flock of rescue chickens. Okay, well, this story could have had a lot more activation of compassion from my point of view. It is not going to hold a child's attention. The drawings are a little vacant in terms of they're not super full and vibrant for kids to really be drawn into them because there's not enough action in the story. And I don't mean like excitement action, I just mean things that children identify with. Playing in certain ways with certain toys, imaginative things, just environmental points of reference. There's just not a ton of detail. Not that I have any problem with the illustration, it's just the illustrations having a lot of blank space paired up with the words of the story being so boring, and especially to a child being boring and hard to connect with. It's just blah. It's bland, it's repetitive, and it's not creative. And unfortunately, I just don't think it's that great of a children's book. I would never recommend it to someone, and I would never want it in my collection. But what do you think? Have you read The Bench? What did you think about it? Question of the day is, what was your opinion of The Bench? I would like to know what your opinion of The Bench is. You just heard mine. Share yours in the comments below and leave your question for question of the day with #question down there. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you have a happy day ahead. I'll see you next time. Bye.